Hey everybody, Clint Losch here with Barbara Beachley, ISM consultant. Hey Barbara.
Hello.
So let's talk about faculty growth and evaluation. So for anybody watching this right now, we all know how important it is, but it's it's such an ongoing challenge for everybody, right? So, and I know that to address that challenge, over the past year, you co-authored this book, Comprehensive Faculty Development, and frankly, for anybody who hasn't purchased this book, I highly recommend it. But I bring up this book because this brings to light a new framework for schools to address the challenges of faculty growth, faculty evaluation. And certainly as a result of the popularity of that book, I know you're kind of on a tour throughout 2020 of teaching these strategies in one-day workshops across the country. And I wanted to kick things off with really the first question that is, I know you hear a lot, that we hear a lot is, what makes this different, especially for schools that have tried other frameworks, other methodologies for evaluation? What makes the comprehensive faculty development model different?
So there are a couple things. I think the most revolutionary piece of this that came from a huge lit review by our research department is really to separate growth from evaluation. And there are two key pieces to that. One is that if you're evaluating growth, it's really hard for teachers to take risks, and we need to take risks to grow, obviously. So that's really important, where we see evaluation and growth as something that really should be supporting teachers, and what it ends up being, in many cases, it feels like a judgment. And so in traditional evaluation systems, which are often based on observations, you've got administrators coming in. The teacher is very unlikely in a traditional evaluation system to take a risk when the administrator's in the room. They're going to do a tried or true lesson. And so this really separates the two. The other reason it's important is because really the time-consuming piece is the growth plan. And so by separating the two, the supervisor can really manage the evaluation for many faculty. And the growth plan, because it's been separated, can be managed by any number of people that can serve as coaches, department chairs, academic dean, peers, the way we've set it out. So it's a great way to really focus on growth and make evaluation there. So you have your HR requirements, you have documentation on every single faculty member. You have a high level of standards that every single teacher, every single year is being held accountable for. But the majority of your time can really be spent on growth. And that's really what matters to schools, and what we know drives student performance, satisfaction, enthusiasm is that growth-focused culture.
Makes sense. So now there's certainly two parties here that are at the core of this, the faculty, the teachers, and the administrators. So I kind of want to ask a two-part question here is, what have you found? Why do administrators like this now?
So having been an administrator with all of the best intentions, and I've tried many different, when I was an administrator, teacher-driven evaluation systems, observations, portfolios, all kinds of things. And again, the issue I talked about before was time. And so administrators with all the best intentions will start out with an evaluation system, and then over time it may dwindle off, or a new idea comes out in the marketplace and then they're changing, and so for the teachers there's no predictability there. So administrators love this because it simplifies their role, which is really the evaluation and holding all teachers accountable to a high set of essential expectations. And they can focus in the evaluation piece on those 3 to 5% maybe that are not meeting expectations. The most of your teachers are great and do exactly what you want them to do, and in their case, you can be focused on growth. And so it's really a system that supports the growth of teachers and recognizes administrators' time is really limited and their resources are limited. So by separating those two pieces, it allows the administrator to really be able to have an evaluation system for all the teachers and yet have the majority of time and energies focused on growth, which is where we want the energy.
Great. So let's take the other side of that then. So now the faculty that becomes involved in this, what do you hear? Why are they loving it?
So I was also a teacher for many years and had many interesting evaluation experiences. One thing I experienced as a teacher, I really wanted feedback that would help me grow, but very often it was, there'd be a drop-in and great job. It was just
Right.
sort of
the sitting in the back of the room.
right, exactly.
Evaluate, yeah.
So there was that I didn't feel like I was actually getting substantive feedback that would help me grow. And I loved models that had me create growth goals, which I was very much a fan of, and I really enjoyed that, and a lot of my colleagues enjoyed that. One of the pieces that was missing, though, that frustrated me as an engaged teacher, was that didn't seem to be a lot of accountability for everyone, and so some teachers, very few, but some teachers seem to be not having to be held accountable to the same standards that I would have thought were expected. And that could be frustrating as a teacher,
Sure.
to not have that accountability across the board. As well as, I think oftentimes teachers are very self-conscious and very self-critical. And so to not know exactly what's expected of you and to just assume you're doing your job because you haven't heard otherwise, it puts you in a kind of a self-conscious position. So the feedback we get from teachers, I think, to me, is what is most exciting, because teachers are the ones who are typically most tentative and
Sure.
skeptical about new evaluation systems. But the feedback we've gotten from teachers across the board is it's empowering. It lets them know exactly what's expected. One teacher said, now I can just relax and do my job, which is fantastic.
Which is what they want to do. Yeah.
Which is what they want to do. They can focus on growth and not be worried about the rest of it, unless they have a reason to be. And those teachers
Sure.
would know right away that there's an issue because of the way the framework lays that out. So if I'd had this as a teacher, I would have been very excited about it.
Fantastic. So, for anybody watching, right? So maybe they're using a model already, using a framework for their evaluation. I know it's the popular name out there is the Danielson model, Danielson framework. So if anybody's listening to this and say, that sounds great, but we're already doing this, do they have to just drop everything and do this? Well, what's your recommendation to those folks that are engaged in some sort of process already?
So obviously when I work with schools, we run into that all the time. And the great thing is typically everything you're doing is useful. It's just got to go in the right bucket. And so a lot of what people are calling evaluation should actually be in the growth bucket. Mm-hmm. So Danielson, a lot of her work, the rubrics she created around good teaching, I think it's excellent, but we would say it could be used as a self-assessment. The teachers could go through the rubric themselves in conversation with their supervisor or growth coach and choose places. And this is, again, a teacher that's meeting the essential expectations. But self-assess and choose growth goals from that, as opposed to, the clipboard of going in and trying to evaluate every single teacher on 100 different measurements, which very few people have the time for that. And oftentimes it's so exhaustive that you don't get feedback that's useful. So what I tell, or schools say, well, we have, student feedback, we have surveys, we have, videos of teachers teaching, we have, all these other things that are involved in the evaluation process. Great, keep it all. Just put it in the growth bucket and make it all something that teachers can reflect on to develop their growth goals. So in many cases, you don't have to abandon anything, especially something that you feel is working. It's really just putting it in the right place, so it's really clear the distinction between growth and evaluation. The one thing I will say about that, because we know how important growth is, and so one question we get is, well, how do we make sure teachers are growing then? Well, one of the essential expectations, and probably the most important one, is that the teachers are authentically engaged in a written growth plan, and that there's accountability for that, but you're not grading the growth. You are simply acknowledging yes or no, the teacher is authentically engaged in the growth. So you're still holding accountability for that, but you as the supervisor just need to know what's happening. You don't necessarily need to be involved in the actual coaching and mentoring, which takes so much time.
Awesome.
And which may not be your wheelhouse. So.
Well, that's great. Well, Barbara, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Absolutely.
If you like what you heard and you're serious about improving your faculty growth and development process, head on over to go.isminc.com/faculty. And when you get to that page and scroll down, you'll see that we are running one-day workshops at schools across the country. These are actually the most affordable and transformational workshops that we've ever offered here at ISM. And we made it that way because due to all of the positive feedback we received about these workshops, we really wanted to make it as easy as possible for schools to attend. And if you click on one of the dates and locations that may be of interest to you, you're going to be taken over to the event page where you can learn more about the workshop itself. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the schedule for the day, the location of the school that it's going to be held at. And one of the great things about all ISM workshops is if you're not satisfied with the event for any reason, ISM will give you a full 100% refund, no questions asked. So if you like what you see, you can register for the workshop at the bottom of the page. And once again, you can learn more by going to go.isminc.com/faculty. Thanks so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you at one of the upcoming events.